I want to add something to the last video I made talking about Jehovah's Witnesses. And I don't really want to pick on Jehovah's Witnesses specifically. It's really about my inability to understand certain kinds of claims, really, that religion seems to demand of its followers. And specifically in relation to Jehovah's Witnesses, but other kinds of Christianities, I don't know much about other religions, is this idea to do with the authority of the biblical text. Certainly the magazines that the Jehovah's Witnesses occasionally drop at my house, the Watchtower and Awake, the source of the authority for the ideas in that is always the Bible. You know, each paragraph, each short piece of writing is referenced with a quote from the Bible, as if that's the source or the font of knowledge. Well, and I guess, you know, in terms of that sort of closed little loop of ideation that they're kicking around with, that's the source that they go back to, which is, well, it's bizarre, really, I think. I mean, firstly, there's the assumption that, well, yeah, the assumption is that source of knowledge, the biblical text, trumps all other sources of knowledge. I mean, it's evident in Jehovah's Witnesses, but I mean, it's really evident in stuff like creationist literature. You know, I mean, if you're looking at a creationist website, or you look at any of their pamphlets, the assumption is that if you put Darwin specifically, but hundreds of thousands of scientists in anthropology and genetics and biology and biochemistry and, you know, all those different fields, if you put that set of scientists on one side of the scales and you put the Bible on the other, then the Bible is a more credible source of authority, and that just seems bizarre to me. Now, is there a dog coming here? Oh, yes there is. I'm going to have to stop this video because there's a dog coming. This video that I had to stop because my dogs were confronted by another dog. I don't know what the story is there. Some kind of weird sectarian antagonism goes on between mine and certainly the dogs. Now, what I was talking about there was to do with religious authority couched in the Bible. And now there is the assumption that the biblical text trumps all other texts. In other words, it has a source of authority underpinning it, which is greater than the source of authority underpinning scientific writings, which of course is you know, the protocols of the scientific method and the kind of scientific institutions, things like peer review and double-blind testing and all those kind of things, which support the authority in scientific writing. So what is the source of authority in the biblical writing? That's the thing I have the problem with. And the problem I have with it isn't that it's nonsense, which it is, but it's the incoherence of the claim. I can kind of understand it in relation to the Koran, because the origins of the Koran are supposedly that it was dictated kind of live to Muhammad over a period of I don't know how long, and he basically copied down what Allah told him to write. That's my understanding of that. I don't necessarily believe that, but it kind of makes sense. You know, if you're going to have a divinely inspired text, that's the kind of method you would need for divine inspiration to take place. I can kind of understand it with the Book of Mormon, which is really silly, but never mind. If Joseph Smith did find these gold plates, the Book of Mormon, guided to him by an angel, Moroni, or whatever it's called, again, no evidence of that, pretty spurious. If you're going to have a divinely inspired text, that's the kind of method that it would be delivered by. Again, fine. But the Bible isn't like that. You know, there's a really good scholarship on the history of the Bible, which all theologians know about. It's not as if this is just something that people outside of the church know about. You know, the history of the Bible is very, very well articulated. Its origins in other texts is well articulated. It's the fact it has multiple authors is well identified. The editing processes, you know, from the meeting at Nicaea that Constantine organised to other processes. The various rewrites are well identified. You know, the rewriting that King James ordered on it, which made some significant changes. Those kind of things are really well identified. So it doesn't even have any pretensions of a divinely authored text. I mean, there's no. If you're saying that the Bible is divinely authored, you pretty much have to say that all text is divinely authored. All writings that precede it, all the writings that it borrowed from, all the writings that inspired it, all the writings that influenced it in its various editing processes, all of the Gnostic stuff which didn't make it into the final version that Constantine and his mates put together, we'd have to say those are divinely inspired. All the writings on it since, you'd have to say, and pretty much you're just saying everything is divinely inspired, which just seems pointless, really. So for me, that's a real point of incoherence. You know, I have no. Well, I do have some problems. I do have problems with people using the Bible as an authority. But if you're going to use it as an authority, then explain where the authority comes from. And it does not come from divine inspiration. That's clear. It comes from other kinds of sources. It comes from myth, or it comes from some kind of weird psychology. I don't know where it comes from, but it's completing every paragraph of a spurious argument with a quotation from the Bible as if it's an authoritative source is not only nonsense; it's also incoherent nonsense.